Testing, 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 1, 2, 3. All right, everybody, welcome back to another Friday night live stream here at Christ Center Ironworks. Thank you so much for joining me in the shop this evening, for all of those that are watching this stream live and for anybody who will be watching on the replay. So how you doing this evening, Jessica?
I am doing good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We have the Baka Maker, Mad Mr. Fox, at the cross.
Hello.
Ashley Mitchell says it's her first time here.
Well, awesome. Good to have you. Good to have you all. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. So, all right. So tonight is special in a lot of ways. So for those of you who don't know, this is our monthly live stream that we do, and this is a giveaway live stream. So we'll be giving away a Mr. Volcano gas forge for the year of the forge. That's what this year is, and we've been giving away one gas forge a month here on the channel, and also some other great giveaway items and door prizes, like some guillotine tools, both an A-frame guillotine tool, a C-frame guillotine tool kit that we sell over at our website, blacksmithingblanks.com. We'll be giving some of those away, and then we will also be giving away a skillet kit as well that you can forge your very own frying skillet from. Also available over at our website, blacksmithingblanks.com. To get some of the things about the giveaway out of the way that it works is you just have to be in attendance and you have to be actively participating in the comment section as it's rolling through here while we are live. So that's how you get entered to win, and we just pick one person at random in the comment section at various times throughout the stream. And that's the way that works. Ain't that right, hun?
That is
all
correct.
Details, all rules, and yada yada, all the legal stuff is in the description below this video here. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, there you go. So who do we have, Jess,
with
us this evening?
Granddad's Forge. He says he's ready for this.
Rob, good to see you.
Katana Guy. Yep. Yay, giveaway.
Yay.
Ben Illingworth, Greg Boggs, Vinny P.
Hello, hello, everyone. Good to have you.
Corey Shire, howdy.
Corey, howdy, howdy. All right. So, second reason why this is a special stream, might as well get back into that, is because you might have noticed something is different if you've joined many of our live streams. Something is different about this new camera angle. Well, this is our brand new camera that we have picked up here for the channel. And so I'm filming on a Panasonic Lumix S5. It's a full frame camera and therefore can let in a lot more picture. So you can get a bigger scope of the shop. And that's going to become my main camera in the shop going forward for all future videos. So not only do we have camera 1, but we have camera 2. And then we also have camera 3. So now we have 3 cameras of awesomeness, and you can go back to the main cam, Jessica. So now we have 3 cameras of awesomeness to capture even more angles of what's going on in the shop and hopefully create a much more entertaining live production. So that's an exciting special number 2. What's up?
Baka Maker says, LOL, he's not small, he's just very far away.
Yeah, it's a big difference when it's not punched in, right? You know, when it's not all punched in. So the main thing about this, and I may end up having to take the main cam and reframe it closer, just so this way it looks a little bit like what everyone's used to, because obviously there's a lot of headspace, and this is actually capturing way up there before. Before, it would only capture up to the top of this sign. Before. So that's how much more punched in it was, and all the peripherals out here you wouldn't have even seen. So you would have seen part of the forge in the frame. You wouldn't have seen anything that way about from where my hand is over. So it really punches in on the old camera system versus now the new camera system. We can get a lot more in shot, which gives an interesting little perspective. So and it also kind of makes me look like a midget on camera. I did notice that.
Gregory says, ooh, my at the upgrade. Roy getting fancy on us.
Yeah, getting super fancy. Super fancy.
Angie and Rick Family Adventure says, I like the camera setup.
Awesome, glad you like it. Glad you like it. So, and then of course, Jessica's being filmed by, well, the really nasty looking webcam. So eventually we'll get another webcam and we'll plug that in there. We have enough room for
one more.
Yeah, one more camera in that whole thing. So we'll have to get her feed upgraded at some point, huh, hun?
Yep, that's right.
Yep. All right. So, good? Any questions, comments, complaints, concerns?
Let's see. There was Gregory Littleton says, when are we going to get Roy a more accurate shirt, something like the most educational Smith on YouTube?
Whenever somebody buys a nice quality shirt and sends it to me, that's when we'll have that. So, well, I'm glad you think I am the most educational blacksmith channel on YouTube. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do try to educate. So, glad to have you. All right, so for this evening's festivities, we are going to be working on this escutcheon plate. Can they see that?
Yep.
Camera 2?
Yep.
So this is something that I am filming. I'm working my way through filming this French Baroque style door knocker. It's taken me forever to get it done. Hopefully I can show that off in the light and look good. Look pretty good? I mean, see what's going on?
Yep.
So that'll eventually hang on the door, something to that effect, just like so. And then you'll be able to knock with it. So I'm going to be working on this back plate this evening. We won't get it all done. We'll be lucky if we get half of this side done. Now this is a filming project, so I will have a 4-part video series on making this entire door, making the door knocker itself, and the escutcheon plate and all the hardware and everything like that that attaches this to a door. So be on the lookout for that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you should be. We do some interesting stuff like this from time to time when we get a chance. So tonight we'll be working on making more of these scrolls here, and we'll be working on this side. Now I've already went through and split this piece. This is a one solid piece of 1/4 inch thick by about 3-inch wide material. So it's 3 inches wide, 1/4 inch thick, and about 12 inches long. And what I've done is I did some layout work, and then I went ahead and chiseled all of these grooves in here, basically split this out with a chisel, hammer and chisel. And then we forge out the scrolls out the other end of it. I wanted to do the back plate this way, not only because it made sense, because it's a flat back plate, and this is something that they would have done traditionally, but I also wanted to show a different method for putting together computational forgings, like scrolls here. So like this example of the door knocker, everything has been forge welded together to the main body. So this piece here, the fishtail piece, is one piece. The collar's a separate piece that's been forge welded on. This is a piece that's been forged out and bent back on itself like a hairpin, and then forge welded. And this is a separate piece that was then scarfed and forge welded onto it to make a full piece, like what you see here. And then I did the same for the other side, and then those both get jump welded onto this piece, the main knocker portion. So that was a way in the video where I'm showing on building up a complex forging with using forge welds and where that would be applicable historically speaking. Well, this is another way of adding complexity to your work, is learning how to split material and forge out, individual legs of that, split material. A good beginner situation to practice this skill right here is to split out tines on forks for eating utensils, or the make your fire pokers where you split the fire poker and bend out the tines. That's probably the simplest version of this. So this is all showing various fundamental steps into making a much more elaborate computational forging like what you see here. So the video ought to be super interesting. We can go back to the main cam, Jess.
Okay.
I hope the video will be super interesting. There's no talking in the video. I'm debating on whether I want to watch the video back and add certain talking points to it to explain things that are going on in the video. Reason for that being is if I added me talking like what we did right now, no one would watch the video because the video would be 19 hours long. So right now to this place, I have a, right now to what you see here, I have 50 hours into this piece. And the 4-part video series is probably going to be 40 minutes in total. So 10-minute video clips each. So 50 hours into 40 minutes. You know, that's without talking. So, so again, it would be a 19-part series, and yeah, I don't want to go that far. Series don't do well on YouTube because people have short attention spans. Everybody's TikTokers now. All right, I'm gonna go get this. I'm gonna get this heated up.
All right.
Put it in the fire here. Get her nice and warm. Are you at camera 3?
Yep. Of
Cool.
course.
We're just nestling it in there and keeping our tongs out of the fire. And we just want to let those tines warm up and heat up. And we'll answer some questions as that goes
Sure.
about its business.
Gregory Littleton says, why do the hairpin on the knocker instead of letting the curl legs just extend through? It seems like it would be easier and the same effect.
Why to do what?
Why do the hairpin on the knocker instead of letting the curl legs just extend through?
So the hairpin is a method of building up scrolls, complex scroll work, because not always is it possible or accurate to just, excuse me, to lay 2 bars together and smack them and weld them in the center. That's not always possible. So, especially once you get into larger work. So, taking something like forging something out on the end of a smaller bar, a scroll on this end, maybe a snub end scroll on this one, nicking it, folding it back on itself, giving it a light little forge weld and a scarf to be able to add to a much larger bar and forge weld it on is a very handy skill, and it's a very traditional way of doing it. Excuse me. Woo! I sucked some dust there. Ugh. So another way of doing it, like I did with my really ornate wall hook that I made, I've got a video on that. That I did it different. I forged out very thin strips of material, and those very thin strips of material lended themselves well because not only were they small and creating little tiny scrolls, but they were also so thin that you really wouldn't have benefited much by trying to make a scarf weld on something that tiny. So those I stacked up, or I billeted up, or what they traditionally would have called faggoted up. I stacked those up and gave them a light forge weld pass just to hold them all together before I attached them to the main bar and end up forge welding more of the piece. So either way is valid. It just depends on what skills you want to acquire and develop further, because the hairpin method is a lot better if you want to do larger and larger work. It's something that's been used for centuries all the time in ornamental ironwork, because you can build up the end of a scroll and just lap weld something on and continue with a big bar stock and continue to scroll up a massive scroll out of it, versus counting on trying to stack all that material together, forge weld it all in one go, and then create all your various scrolls out of it. Excuse me.
Thomas, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, loving the cam. It's a nice wide shot.
Thank you, Thomas. Good old Thomas Goody Moot. He's my help in the shop.
Dana, welcome. Todd Good, welcome.
I gotta get a refill here. I'm sorry, folks. Don't you just hate it when you get a throat tickle that you can't do anything about?
Actually, Mitchell, yes, sometimes we do incorporate time lapses into the videos. It just kind of depends on what the project is.
Yeah. So video work is very interesting in the YouTube world. You guys, when you watch a video, Alex Steele's videos, John Switzer, Black Bear Forge, Big Dog Forge, maybe, you know, Troy and Eli over at Bar Run Forge, Yamez at Island Mill Forge, all these various people, as you watch their content and you watch a video on someone doing something, or anybody, there's so many forges out there, I can't include them all in this list. You see a 3-minute segment that you kind of halfway lazily scroll through because, well, you think you know where they're going with it, and so you just kind of zoom up and get to the juicy parts. That 3-minute segment is a 3-minute slice of a 3 hours worth of work to create that 3-minute slice that they've condensed down to the most action-packed information as possible. And the reason for that being is the attention spans of most folks. They don't go to YouTube to truly learn. They go to YouTube to be entertained for the most part. You know, you got some time, you're sitting on the commode, you're scrolling. You done scrolled Facebook, left a bunch of mean, nasty comments to people, went over, checked your Insta, and then boom, then you get on YouTube and you scroll through some videos, you know, things like that. Everybody does it. I'm only accusing you because I accuse myself of doing the same thing. Sometimes. Except leaving mean, nasty comments. I don't engage. But with that being said, that kind of culture online has created a situation where creators' videos where they would put an hour-long educational video out will go to the bottom of YouTube's basement and never be circulated because no one will ever watch it. There's 50 people who are really interested in that are super die-hard fans of the craft that'll totally watch that. And there's 50 billion people or 50 million people who will never want to watch anything longer than 2 minutes of your content. And so YouTube sees that and it indicates to them that that video is no good. So what do people make? People make dicey content. People make, you know, quick little shorts and 2-minute this and that where they look like they're on crack. You know, oh, whoa, over here, boom, bing, bang, boom, go, whoa, wow, bang. Okay, the video is over with. And you've watched like a 14-hour day go by in 30 seconds or less. So eventually that will sort itself out and people will be thirsting for longer form content that has, you know, actual substance to it. That was like a mini rant. Just the thing of being an online YouTube educator. You see some channels get millions of views or hundreds of thousands of views, and then you're just like, dude, I can't even begin to speak that fast, so let alone even compete. So
Michael Jolson says, adding to the topic you just covered, if you are making a gate with a lot of scroll work, is it valid to make several scrolls and then use a welder to attach them together? It might not be traditional.
So there's some things that you could do. The purist in me is kind of like, oh, why would you do that? But the realist in me, the business person in me, says, yeah, use an arc welder. It's so much easier. So you can make up some various decorative scrolls and arc weld them together. I would say don't make the mistake though, like most modern fab shops that make scrolls. Scrolls are meant to have flow. They're not just meant to just be crammed in somewhere in just random directions and there's scroll work. That's poor design and it's poor balance and it just looks manufactured garbage. So take note of how old ironwork was done, and that will indicate what looks good with even modern arc welding. Some things you can do, you could hide your welds with a collar, you could blend them very well. Sometimes if it's being hot dip galvanized, it won't even matter. You know, if you did a clean job of welding and you know, sanded it up nice and smooth, no one will be able to tell the difference. One trick that a lot of guys would use where they're trying to work on a traditional piece, but maybe they're not that great at forge welding, you put your weld on there, you smooth it up, and then you forge it in. So you actually forge the welded area a little bit, and that just makes it go away in the piece and it doesn't stick out like an eyesore.
Evening, Mr. Coffee.
But yeah, using arc welding is a perfectly valid method. So, all right, let's go to camera number 2, Jessica.
Okay.
All right, that sat in there for a hot minute, so I need to brush her real quick. She's got some junk on it. So the first step in this process is we need to give ourselves some clearance. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to start knocking out areas and bending the rest of the things back. So this is what they call a courtesy bend, or convenience bending, to get things out to where you can actually work on them. See how we've stuck that thing out there? So we bent this out of the way, just so this way our hammer don't hit it. Now, you have to be gentle with this. You can't just go full hams on this and just bend it back flat, right? We don't want that. We're just getting these out of the way enough that we can get into this crook right down here in the base of the bend. So that way I can come in right here and I can forge that out, if you will. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
And now you'll see me holding my tongs in all sorts of weird angles. That is just part of this when you have that much going on at once. It pays to get really good at, you know, using a pair of tongs and being able to manipulate your material. Because you're going to be forced to have to do that in all sorts of weird angles to forge on your piece. All right.
Yes, ready for a question?
Yep, go back to main cam.
Okay. Ambition Forge, on the topic of getting views, he said, like that one time Roy was luxuriating on the dirt floor, all Burt Reynolds like. I bet that got a ton of views. I know I watched it a lot.
Well, just don't tell your friends.
Just need to spend more time on the floor. Get
Yeah.
more views.
Oh, the things you have to do for views nowadays.
Kevin Zufelt says, looking forward to taking a class with Roy at the FABA conference in November.
Awesome. I'll be glad to meet you down there. So, yeah, I'll be doing not only a demonstration on computational forging, making a very ornate wall hook. Not only will I be doing that at the conference, but I'll also be teaching a 4-hour class on forge welding, of all things. So it ought to be pretty darn interesting.
Mm-hmm. Larry Bibby says, I have a silly question. Do you make your own charcoal, or is it store-bought, or do you use briquettes or coal for your fire?
This is Blacksmith coke. So this is actually coal that has had the volatiles baked out of it. So that's why it doesn't put off sulfur, like sulfurous smoke, is because of the volatiles have been baked out of it. Not the clinker, that's still in there. The impurities are still in the actual coke itself because it doesn't get that hot, but it's been basically baked already, and it bakes out all the sulfurous smoke and things like that. So this is a Blacksmith coke that I'm forging with. That's different than green coal. Green coal comes straight from the mine, and then basically when you're forging with it, you're scooping some on, it bakes out that sulfurous smoke as you forge with it. Charcoal is made from wood, and coal is very, very old carbon from plants and all sorts of things that died many, many years ago. Let's go to camera 2, Jess. All right, it's cold enough, I need to stop working it.
Gregory Littleton says, Jess, how many times have you walked in on Roy using his pointer tool as a back scratcher? None, but he actually did make a back scratcher with a hand on it a while back. And Roy Hennigier, yes, there is a video on making the finger pointer. Just search Christen and Ironworks forging a hand and you'll be able to pull that up.
Might I add, it was the first video on forging a hand on YouTube, by the way. So, many videos came after.
Charles Tuckey says, the skillet was cool to watch. Was curious why a cold rivet?
The reason why for a cold rivet, 1, it's accuracy. 2, you don't need it to be hot. Let me grab one of these here. All Thomas is doing. We'll go to camera number 2, Jess. So, why cold rivet? Great question, and I'll go ahead and answer it. So the reason to cold rivet something like this, and the main reason to cold rivet it is it's economical to rivet this cold versus trying to get this hot again. So that's number 1 reason. The second reason is it gives you time to get everything set. So it's more efficient in the long run to take and cold rivet this together, because you can put one piece in, you can get it all aligned, take your time, make sure the rivet's right where it needs to be, and then rivet the thing down versus working with a super hot rivet. The third reason for cold riveting is because whenever you forge on this rivet is expanding inside that hole. And there's no way of getting that rivet super hot without getting also this area in here hot. So when you go and you forge down that rivet, it's expanding in the hole. If that rivet's hot and it's able to mushroom and expand, what's happening to the material around it? It's expanding right along with it. So what ends up happening is if you bring a hot rivet, if you put your rivets in here, bring it up nice and hot in this area, when you forge out those rivets to expand the heads on those rivets, the material around the rivet expands as well. And when everything cools, the rivets cool quicker than what the excess material does, and it runs away from one another. And then you get a jiggly handle. And then you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have to re-rivet this. And you make the mistake of thinking, I gotta go heat it back up. And then you just squash it out more, and your hole just gets bigger in the pan. Hopefully that's making sense. So then as that hole gets bigger in that pan, and your rivet's getting flatter and flatter, you're chasing the problem. And what you really should do is, if it's still loose, even after hot riveting, you should come back cold and tighten the rivet by hammering it while the whole piece is cold, and that snugs up everything once again. So I'm bypassing all of that to begin with just by cold riveting. The rivets are soft, they're pre-annealed from the factory when I buy the rivets, and so all I gotta do is slip them in and peen them down and they're good to go. The only way that I would hot rivet something like this on a pan is with a torch, and if I needed to create a domed head on the back side. Because there's not really a great way of forming a nice domed head cold by hand. You can do it with hydraulics and other specialized tooling, but there's not a real great way of doing that cold. So in that case, you would heat the rivet up and then form the head. But you wouldn't want the area around the rivet to get hot, because then you just lose it. Hopefully that makes sense. And might I mention, we go camera number 1, Jess. Might I mention, Thomas did an excellent job on these skillets, so he's been knocking them out. Not bad for his first 3 ever.
Gregory, to answer your question, as of currently, no, we do not have any events planned in the Middle Tennessee area for this year, anyway.
Where?
He asked if we had anything planned in Tennessee.
Oh, in Tennessee, not this year.
Edward, he says, sweet, you're coming to Wisconsin. How would one go about getting tickets? The one in Wisconsin is through UMBA, Upper Midwest Blacksmith Association, and I believe they do have the registration now available. So if you go to their website, you'll be able to register. Also, we have our calendar of events on our website as well, with links to the different events that we're doing. So if you go to blacksmithpdfs.com.
I'll be back in a sec here, honey.
Okay. If you go to blacksmithpdfs.com, you will be able to see that full calendar of events with all those links there. Camden Hughes asked, where did Roy get his anvil? He actually got his anvil from eBay. It came up available, and he had to drive to Georgia to get it. He's been looking for a double horn for quite a while at the time, and it came available, and we had the money, and I said, you should go get it. So he made the drive and went down and picked it up. Joshua Potter, where can I get smithing classes? Joshua, one of your best bets is to start, just find a guild in your state, and they frequently have classes and workshops available, and you'll probably hook up with somebody that's right in your area too. So just start by finding a local group near you.
All right, can we go to camera number 2 real quick?
Okay.
It's getting hot. What I'm doing right now is what's considered a planishing heat. On the camera it looks black, but there's still a little bit of red color into it. So all I'm doing is planishing or planishing the surface. I'm taking out all my hammer marks, or as many hammer marks as I care. I do leave some in. That way you can definitely tell that it's a forged piece. There we go. Looking pretty good.
Uh-huh.
Back, go to camera 3, Jess.
Yeah. You don't have to tell me every single time.
I don't have to tell you. You got it now?
Yeah.
Got it figured out? All right, new system. So one tricky part about working with stuff like this is finding ways of getting it in here. You don't want to constantly be heating this area over here. You don't want to constantly be heating all the area that you're not working. So this is all unnecessary. We don't want this to get hot. But we do want, however, this to be hot, because that's the thing we're working on. And so therefore, it is easier to do this in a coal forge than it is in a gas forge. A gas forge wants to make everything hot. okay? So if you have a gas forge and you're trying to do something complex like this and you're struggling, it's my suggestion that you actually do this with a torch, like a rosebud on an oxyacetylene torch. Heat up the leg that you need to be hot and then forge it away and keep the heat out of your other parts and pieces. We've got to remember that gas forges are actually a fairly new invention. So they are not traditional at all. So back in the day when this style of work would have been very prevalent, we can go back to the main cam, hun.
Okay.
When this style of work would have been prevalent the most would have been in the time when they just had charcoal forges or coal forges. So you just got to keep that in mind, that if you're going for an ancient technique, you need to use ancient methods to achieve what would have already been done. So if you see something really ornate, some sort of castle in France somewhere that has this big, beautiful, ornate thing, doesn't mean that you can't do it with modern equipment, but they didn't do it in a gas forge. You're like, how in the world? That wouldn't even fit inside the opening of my gas forge, because it was never made in a gas forge. It was made in a big open hearth where they could manipulate that piece around. So that's just something to keep in mind about your work. If you're struggling with it in your shop with your particular tools, it might not be you specifically that is having the issue. It might just be you're not using the right methods to go about in tools to actually go about completing the project. Just something to keep in mind.
Nicholas, we may make a trip to North Carolina at some point. For those of you who ask, you're not asking about the different states. We try to do about a conference every year, so we don't have next year exactly planned yet, so we'll see where we get to.
Yep. So every year I start off the end of the year, I start off saying, all right, next year I'm not going anywhere or doing anything. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to get work done that needs to happen around the homestead. And then every time I say that, some kind folks want to invite me to teach or demonstrate at a conference or at a class. And then I'm like, okay, sure, put it on the calendar next year. And then I end up with like a full calendar where every month I'm gone for at least 1 week out of the month to do classes or workshops or things like that. So I've been trying to pare it back a little bit and be more I don't want to say selective, because that's not the right word for it, but just trying to be sure of where I want to go and teach. And that way I don't double book stuff and overschedule stuff, going forward. But I really enjoy going around to conferences. I do enjoy teaching. I love teaching. I love going out and interacting with people. So with that being said, if you want me to come teach at your local blacksmith club or group or venue or something like that, you want to see me at one of your conferences or a demonstration, just get with your local group or a whole bunch of buddies and friends and, get with us. Have forge, will travel. I work for just next to nothing. Food, huh?
William Travers says, is green coal a bad thing?
Nope, green coal is a great thing. So that's a short answer. So everybody who's concerned with the environment these days, forget that it's not individuals that create toxic anything. It's large factories and corporations. So it's the industrialization of America and the world that have created the situation that we're in now, where everybody's all freaked out about the environment and things like that. So you running green coal in your home forge, is doing absolutely nothing to the environment. It would be like saying that one singular smoker on the face of the earth lighting up a cigarette gives everybody lung cancer. Also not correct. So green coal is a great thing. Now, using green coal to take and power like everything, no, not a good thing. Learned that a long time ago. They learned that was not a good idea for everybody to burn coal to heat with, everybody to use coal to power all of our steam engines and equipment. They realized that that was a really bad thing after a while. So yeah, so on an industrial level, green coal is not great. On a personal level and on a blacksmith level, there's a reason why blacksmiths have used green coal for hundreds upon hundreds of years. It is the most efficient heating source we have. Pound for pound, ton for ton. All right, let's go back to the anvil. All right, now I'm going to whip this into shape by turning her into a scroll. Keeping it in line. I'm going to roughly match this to what I already have on the other side. And when I say roughly, I do mean roughly, so it's not going to be perfect. Seldom things were perfect back in the day. So I'm not reaching for this thing to be manufactured in look or effect. But I'm also not doing simultaneously, I'm not doing sloppy ironwork. Can everybody see that okay in focus? I'm apologizing right now for all the coughing, folks. Oh, I sucked a fuzz earlier and it is not going away. I don't know if it was a fly or a gnat or what, but it is not going away.
Joe Splendor says, what type of hammer are you using for this work?
I am using the world's best hammer. One that I made oh so long ago. It is a crosspeen. It's an early German style crosspeen hammer. So, yeah, it's secondary cam. This is a wrought iron body with steel faces welded in that I made in class with Tom Latinay. He is a master blacksmith out of Pepin, Wisconsin. I took this class, which was a decorative hammer class. We can't show that off on the camera, but basically I chased in a little rosette and some little viney details into it. And this has been my main forging hammer for 8 years now, 7, 8 years. I don't know if that's accurate. I've just used it every day in the shop for the last at least 7 or 8 years professionally. So, yep, great hammer. It's my main, it's my go-to. Every time I reach for a hammer in the shop, I always find myself going to that hammer. It's 1 3/4 pounds. It is not a heavy hammer because I actually swing my hammer daily. So, with that being said, I don't want a 9-pound hammer to do that with. I plan on being in the craft for a long, long time. Questions?
Sure. Nicholas Papara says, what's your favorite item to forge?
This, right now, what I'm doing. I don't have items that are favorites of mine to forge. I have style, a specific style of ironwork. That is my favorite style of ironwork. And that happens to be French Baroque period style ironwork. Some know it as also right at the tail end of the Baroque period, there was the Rococo period and style of ironwork, and I like that as well. So I'm always searching for that kind of style of work, and that's what I'm always striving for in my own body of work. And some people say, well, why French? Is Baroque ironwork or Baroque ironwork, is that specifically French? It is not. It's a period. It's a period of time in a certain styling of ironwork. And it was very regional based. So French Baroque ironwork had very ornate, over the top, like gobs of scrolls and plumage and leaves and faces and you name it in it. As where the same period of time, you had Italian Baroque ironwork, you had German Baroque period of ironwork, you had in England and English, you had that kind of Baroque ironwork, their variation to suit their own tastes of what it is. But it indicates a specific period of iron, of style, if you will. Just like, they used to think cod pieces were cool, and then those fell out of fashion. And then they used to think big hair pieces like wigs were cool, and then that fell out of fashion. And ironwork did much the same thing amongst the wealthy and the elites. Just like today, which is my most unfavorite type of ironwork nowadays, is modern ironwork. I hate it with a passion. I don't find any of it attractive at all. It's not why I became a blacksmith, to learn how to make straight bars stay straight and go into other straight bars. Ugh, that's yucky. I don't like it. All right, back to the amble.
All right.
Now, I want to preface that last statement with, that's solely my opinion. And it's just taste, right? It's a matter of taste. Some people really loves modern ironwork, and the way it looks and its simplicity and things like that. It's just not my bag, man. You wouldn't find me being like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Not really. I know several smiths that do that sort of ironwork. And again, more power to them. They got to service their clients' needs and wants. But I don't have the same clients, so I don't have to worry about that sort of thing. There we go. Keep going.
Dylan Rose, to answer your question about the giveaway, we will announce just before we give away, so that way it'll be both in the chat and out loud. Yep. And that way we can avoid some of the comment spamming outside of the giveaway time period.
I got my nose running, man.
Gregory Littleton also pointed out, says, we may have a sensor dying in camera 2. The image quality keeps changing. I did notice it's blacked out like 3 times coming from camera 2, so we'll keep an eye on that.
One here?
Yes.
So far it's just showing straight feed, so I don't know if it's just
the cord maybe?
The cord, maybe the computer.
Maybe. I've only had it happen with camera 2. It blacked out for a second or two.
Okay. Well, we are pushing a lot with 3 cameras going at it there. You know, I don't know if I changed the main cam from 10-bit to 8-bit. That might be affecting it a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
The feed that's coming out is a higher resolution quality than what the secondary cam is, so they might be fighting for space. What else, babe?
Let's see here. Joshua Potter asks, is there a good flux that you can use in the Mr. Volcano forge that doesn't eat up the lining?
Sand would be about it. I mean, all fluxes are acids. Well, I guess I shouldn't say all, but the majority of fluxes are acids. They interact with the surface oxides at high temperature, and they clean the oxide off of the welded pieces to be welded, the welding plane. So they, at high temperature, they're going to do what they are meant to do, which is basically flux, or through capillary action, run through your joint and clean all the scale. And it's going to drip and hit your fire bricks, and it's going to continue to bond with oxidization and do exactly that thing. So I don't know of any products that are safe to use in gas forges. I'm sure there's something out there. I'm sure some company offers something that says it's perfect for gas forges. I think that's mostly marketing. I haven't known anybody who uses flux in gas forges not have problems with it eating the lining. The best thing you could do for yourself is put in a hard fire brick in the bottom, and, you know, try not to sling it around. You know, don't throw your flux inside the forge there. And then once that brick gets ate up, chuck it. It's a consumable. Put in a new hard fire brick. I think that's what most shops do. It's what most professional shops do. That would be my suggestion. Good.
Jason Holloway says, as borax goes for flux, do you go heavier or lighter is more beneficial?
Great question. So, no, more is not beneficial when using flux. People think flux, more flux is beneficial, but it is not. Oh, by the way, I'm going to mention, I'm putting a bevel to this. So this way, one, it curls it up a little nicer, makes it a little wider. A little file work I'll have to do there now because it got right in at the corner. So, flux. Overfluxing comes from a lack of understanding of what flux is and what it is used for and how it works. So I'll give you a short little education on that. Flux, the best way I can explain flux is like a detergent. It is a cleaning agent. It is not a candy coating. It does not protect the steel from oxidization. All flux does is bonds with the surface oxidization at high temperature, where it's at already on the material. The surface is already oxidized at temp. It bonds with that in between two welded planes of a joint. It bonds, and through capillary action, it then runs that scale, or those oxides, out to the outside edges of that welded plane to take and be welded together. So when you give it that first smack of the hammer, what is squirting out is the flux and not the liquid material, as long as you're doing it lightly. You know, if you're doing it lightly, a light hammer blow, that allows you to use a light hammer blow, and it pops all the scale, all the oxidization out of the joint, finally. Got a fly bothering me now. What in the world? All right, So that is what flux is used for. Flux is only valuable to you when there is a situation where you're going to trap scale in a welded plane. For example, a V-bit axe. So you forge in a bird's mouth, and you're putting a high carbon bit in there. That flux, the flux runs down in there and pulls the scale out of the bottom of that joint. So this way the bottom of that joint makes a full weld when you seat that V-bit in there. If you didn't use flux in that, you're going to have some crud stuck there. That's what flux is used for. So collar welds, just like on the collar here. Go to camera number 2, Jess.
All right.
The collar here, there's a whole lot of surface area here where the scale can get trapped in it. Because, I'm trying to weld this whole thing up, there's a lot of surface area here that can not only scale up on me, but the flux can, not the flux, but the actual scale can get trapped between the surface planes and not allow them to stick or to weld. And so therefore, you use some flux and it runs all that out. In this particular case, the way I had it, it ran it out the back of the joint. All the flux came dripping out of here along with the oxides. It wasn't a candy coating. This still scaled up. This still created scale. It still created oxides. But the difference is the oxides were on the outside of the joint and they were not on the inside of the joint because I had two clean pieces of material going together. I didn't brush these unnecessarily so. I didn't scrub them. I didn't grind them into mere finish and then put them together, because as soon as you stick that in that forge back there and you bring it up to a bright orange heat, it's already oxidized and scaled. So the flux is a cleaning agent, and that is what flux is used for. So less flux is needed than you might think. Most of the time, in fact, I'll just show you. We'll stay at camera 2.
Okay.
So for this joint, to weld up this collar, that's as much flux as I put on it. The capillary action takes and melts this flux. It melted, it goes in, it finds that, it runs through the joint, and that is it. So I used a sprinkle, just like you're salting it, like that. That's all I use to get that to forge weld. So when you're rousing that down in a big bucket of flux, and you see people doing that, it's all nonsense. It's a misrepresentation of what flux is used for. So you don't have to do that. It's not metal glue. My scrolling tongs. Boom.
Good evening, Mama Adams. Love you too.
Hello, hello.
Acting Out asked how old you were when you first started forging.
19, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I'm 34 now. Well, this year I'm 34. I'm using a pair of scrolling tongs to pull that scroll in just a little bit where I want it. I'll lightly hammer on the surface, take out some more hammer marks that I don't find attractive. So there's another thing that's been going around that's also not accurate as to what flux is used for. And I'm going to take some heat on this one. I'm sure I will, because it's very popular, but it's completely inaccurate about what's going on. So a big popular brand of flux right now is Iron Mountain Flux, and people like to use it. I know, I can just hear it right now, the anger that's happening on people's thumbs on their devices. So there are videos out there, and there are folks out there, and this is nothing against them, but where they profess that, look, the material is not even red heat. We'll pull this back out and go to camera 2, Jess.
Okay.
Or we could have stayed at camera 2, but here. The material will be this hot. They'll sprinkle on the Iron Mountain Flux, right? Or they'll have the Iron Mountain Flux on there. They'll bring it out at this temp or just a little hotter, maybe an orange in color, and they'll tap it together and they'll say, see? And they'll do this with their tongs. That is forge welded. That is absolutely physically impossible. Physically impossible for the steel to be welded at that temperature. I don't care what magic dust you throw on it. Physically impossible. There are high carbon material, high carbon steels that will weld at about 1980 degrees, which that is not 1980 degrees. There are most mild steels. Most mild steels are right around 2000 to 2200 degrees is their forge welding temp. So if you're doing structural work, that's about the temperature that you will forge weld it at. And there are wrought irons that go all the way up in excess. If you're forge welding on wrought iron, you can take that thing white, sparkly hot in wrought iron, and you're getting up there in that 24 to 2500, okay, on the welding end of the spectrum, okay, 2500 degrees at the top end there. When you take a bar of steel that is red in color or bright orange, that is sitting at anywhere from 1500 to 1600 degrees, it is impossible, physically impossible, for it to be forge welded. That's incorrect. It's an incorrect statement. It's been put out there. It's part of the marketing get up. Everybody, no one's corrected it, but I'm correcting it. It is physically impossible for steel to be welded at that low of a temperature. So you may be asking yourself, well then what's going on? What's going on with that? Well, have you ever had two pieces of material that you have put together, you fluxed it, you brought it out, and you whacked it together, and you're like, hey, this stuck, it's welded. Later on, to take and pull on it a little bit, or to stick it back in the fire, and the piece falls apart? Have you ever had that happen to you? What that is the flux, okay, doing its job. It is cleaning those surfaces, and it gets tacky-like when it does that. It mixes with the oxides that are on the material, and it gets kind of tacky-like. And so when you whack it together, you're pushing that one surface that's not completely clean yet, and the other surface that's not clean yet, and the scale is sticking together. It's blending, it's marrying together between that welded plane. And then when you go to do further work with it, that scale gets heated up and it falls apart because the flux continues to do its job, trying to clean the joint, and that eats that superficial joint that just got made. Now, if you were to keep that up, or if that was in the center of a billet of Damascus or whatever, you would call that an inclusion, or you would see some delam, right? People like to use the word delamination. That's where that comes from. is because it didn't get fully clean. Still together, you start twisting it and all of a sudden all your joints popped open because you're making twist Damascus or whatever. Well, that's because there was a superficial weld made. So that is an absolute incorrect statement that gets made, and I've seen it a lot on the online forums, and I'm kind of just shocked that no one's called anybody on that yet. But it is actually a physical impossibility on Earth, physically impossible for metal to weld together at such a low temperature when we're talking about our work, blacksmith work, forge welding work. That is not what that is doing. Can it stick together at that low of temp? It sure can, but I definitely sure as hell wouldn't build a chain out of it to take and anchor a ship or to pull a log out of a ditch. I would not trust a weld that was made in that way because it's not welded. So that little rant's over. Like I said, bring on the hate. Bring on the hate. There's a reason why I'm wearing this shirt today. I feel spicy.
Charles says, great explanation of forge welds.
Yep. And you know what? I will fully concede and back down and recant my statement when someone can accurately show me and argue the thing out, actually show me scientific data where you can forge weld mild steel to itself at 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. Knock yourself out. That's how confident I am in that statement. So, knock yourselves out. I would love to see the published paper on that.
Williams Travers says, can you use a hot or a cold rivet for tongs?
Say what, hon?
Hot or cold rivet for tongs?
I cold rivet first, and then I adjust and dome hot. So I set the rivet cold. Tongs are one of those where it's helpful to have the rivet hot, the riveted area hot, so this way you can work the tongs joint loose, because you want a loose riveted area. You don't want it to be sucked up super tight, right? So that's where tongs work, and you can get away with hot riveting tongs.
By the way, it's 6:11.
You said it's 6:11?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And
We're
we
doing
have
pretty good.
90 viewers.
90 viewers, huh?
Mm-hmm.
We should probably give away something here in a second.
Yeah.
Pro tip. Come over here, camera 3 real quick. Right now, you're starting to see some sparks coming up out of the forge. That's kind of sparkly. If you have a piece like that that's starting to burn up on you, as long as it's not too far gone, if you take it out and stuff it in the ashes next to the forge fire, it will suffocate the oxygen that's burning your material. So if you stick it to the side of the forge fire in some ashes, or if you got some ashes nearby, wood ashes, don't really matter what it is, but if you stick it in that fire, if you stick it out of the air and under some ashes, it'll kill that burning that's occurring. Pro tip there.
Awesome. Boo Boo says, what made you get into blacksmithing?
I've always had a fascination with it since I was a kid. I fell in love with the craft at Carriage Hill Metro Park. There was a historical reenactment, blacksmith, a historical demonstrator. And fell in love with it there. And it wasn't until years later that Jessica and I had gotten married and moved back to my hometown there in Dayton, Ohio. And when we did that, we stopped in. Of course, I spent far too long talking to the blacksmith on our date day. Just sitting there and became a big kid again. And then I pestered Jessica about it for like a month until she found me a coal forge, the very coal forge that we're forging out of right now. And that started it right there. I've always had just a general interest in building things, and I've always been crafty. So it worked out really well. Now my interests in blacksmithing mainly evolve around my French Baroque ironwork and teaching. I like teaching. I love educating and giving everybody else a good start in the craft. Okay, we need to go to the anvil.
All right.
This is hot. I want to make use of its heat. Spin this. I have to adjust that a little more so I can get in at that little webbing, but not too bad. And before it fully cools off, I'm going to bend her straight back down again, just so I can get in there and get it nice and hot.
A couple of people were having a chat about forging in suburban areas. Nuclear Mechanic says, am I foolish to start learning blacksmithing living in a suburban area? Neighbors aren't very friendly as it is.
He's what?
He wants to know if it's foolish to start learning blacksmithing in a suburban area.
If you're already starting off irksome with your neighbors for whatever reason, having spats about, border disputes or whatever's going on there, it's going to be difficult to start up something that's super noisy. So the best thing that I can say about that is try to work with your neighbors that are around you. You know, there is a certain amount that you can do starting up with blacksmithing where really your neighbors can't do a whole lot about it. So there is, if you keep it under a certain decibel level, every county, every state is different on that, what their noise level, acceptable allowance of noise is. And so, you blacksmithing in your garage is no different than somebody tuning up their Harley with straight pipes in their garage, right? If you be a jerk to everybody in your neighborhood and you're romping on it at, 12 o'clock at night, yeah, you deserve to have the cops called on you, right? Because you're waking the neighborhood and rattling glass, right? But if it's midday and everybody's out and they're doing whatever, they may have a small annoyance, but they live around other people. So it's kind of just, you don't call them when they get noise, call out the cops on them when they're having a noisy barbecue or a bar mitzvah or something, right? And they don't call the cops on you because, you forged a trinket that you gave them for their barbecue, right? You made them a bottle opener. Things like that. So it's all about working with your neighbors, being conscientious of the fact that they may not be as excited about blacksmithing as you are. And a lot of the fears around that can be solved simply by educating your neighborhood about what you're doing. So, instead of them hearing and smelling weird smells and hearing weird noises and not knowing what the heck's going on in your quiet little village or cul-de-sac or neighborhood, educate your neighbors about what you're doing. And you might find several allies that just think it's cooler than snot, man. And then you're in like Flint. So I know there's a lot of blacksmiths that work in urban areas out of their garage and stuff, and most of them have good relationships with their neighbors. Not always is that the case. Sometimes you have to find a local group or some historical reenactment place that you can volunteer at to scratch the blacksmithing itch. But you can usually find workarounds if you're patient. So.
Brittinghammer asked if they had tried blackmailing them.
I know what you did last weekend. That's the funny thing about blackmail. It can go both ways.
Howdy,
you might not want to start with that.
Right.
Excuse me.
Somebody asked what the minimum space to put forge in would be.
Minimum space, you're going to have probably 200 square foot. And I only say that for ventilation reasons and clearance to combustible reasons. You can forge in a really small space. You just need enough space to turn around from your forge fire, whether it be gas forge or otherwise, to your anvil. That doesn't require a whole lot of space. And then if you make it an open shop design to where you can really open your doors up and take part of the grass that's outside or the concrete or whatever and have kind of a covered space, you can do that as well to great advantage. But when it comes to an enclosed space, 200 square foot is probably the minimum, I would say, because you're just going to need space to keep away from combustibles and to have plenty of good, clean, fresh air to breathe. So that would be my recommendations.
Uncle Buck's Forge says, just be careful. Blacksmithing sometimes draws weird people too. Crowds of them, LOL.
Yeah, like YouTube's. That's all right. We're all weird in our own unique, special way.
The Broke Blacksmith says, what was your original startup budget?
What was what?
The Broke Blacksmith says, what was your original startup budget?
Zero. I had $0 to spend. So my original startup budget is I had a reclaimed pallet shed building. I had a Harbor Freight anvil that was gifted to me for Christmas, a post vise that was gifted to me for Christmas, and a $150 coal forge that Jessica bought. That was my startup budget, and a 3-pound Harbor Freight cross-peen hammer. That was my startup budget. So I've worked from that now to, well, the shop space you see me in and all the illustrious tools and things like that. And it's taken me 14 years now. Yeah, 14 years to get here. So where I'm at. So it's okay to start small and build it up one little piece at a time. All right, let's give something away.
All right.
I feel happy to give something away. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Thank you all for being here, by the way. So glad to have everyone. What time are we at? We are at
6:22.
6:22. All right. Well, time to lose half the audience. What do you say?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, they'll have to stick around if they want to see all the giveaways.
Yeah. All right. So first and foremost, let's give away some sticker packs, Jess.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, we have sticker packs. They were provided to us by Dana Maggiore. Thank you, Dana, for those. And so they have the Christ Center and Ironworks logo in the sticker pack. I'm also going to throw in this one as well, the Blacksmithing Flux sticker in there as well. The Christ Center Ironworks brand Blacksmithing Flux sticker in the package as well. And the illustrious and well sought after and coveted Year of the Forge sticker is all going in the sticker pack. So we're going to go ahead and draw probably 3 names. Sound good? 4 names?
Sure.
Sound appropriate?
That'll work.
All right. So the way this works, I'm going to ring the anvil with a hammer, When I come to stop, Jessica's going to pick a name at random. You could say sticker me please, stickers, whatever. Include stickers in the comment. That way Jessica can find it easily. And yeah, we good to go?
Yep, we're good.
You ready? Are they commenting?
They are.
All right, and 3, 2, 1, go. Who's the first winner, Jess?
We have Walt Parkhurst with stickers, yeah.
Walt Parkhurst. Congratulations, brother. Longtime channel subscriber. Congratulations, Walt. You're the winner of the first sticker pack. All right, ready to draw again?
Mm-hmm.
All right, drawing for winner number 2. Who do we have, Jess?
We have a Fingers 1 with sticky stickers.
Who is it?
Fingers 1.
Fingers 1, sticky stickers. Congratulations. You can get with us through the contact email in the description. All right, let's draw winner number 3.
All right.
Who do we have?
We have Scott G with Sticker Me.
Scott G, congratulations. You've been stickered, good sir. All right, and one last one. We ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. Who do we have?
Nuclear Mechanic with stickers.
Nuclear Mechanic, congratulations. You got some stickers. Get with us through the contact email in the description down below. Okay, so that's for stickers. I'm going to go ahead. Easy.
Drop some stuff.
Getting a little excited. Or as Thomas would say, goody moot, I just peed a little. He's like an excited little puppy. Some days. It's an inside shop joke for those of you who don't get it. So, all right. So we're going to be giving away a guillotine tool set, guillotine tool kit that we sell over our website, blacksmithingblanks.com. And so it comes with a die that you have to cut and make yourself, and then all the pieces that you see here, including the 1-inch Hardy stem, to make a C-frame guillotine tool. Sound pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go back to the main cam. So that is for the C-frame guillotine tool. We're going to go ahead and draw a name for that at random from the comment section here. So all you have to do is comment with something about the C-frame guillotine tool. Sound good?
Yes.
Do you need to pick that up?
Sure. Dropping stuff over here.
Easy. Do you need a new pen or what?
There we go. I'm good. No, I swear.
Is it all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
I've got a pen. You need
It works.
It works? Okay. Yeah. All right, so we're going to draw as people commenting.
Yes, they're commenting.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Who do we have?
We landed on Debaka Maker with Guillotine Me Please.
Debaka Maker, congratulations, brother. Another longtime subscriber. You are the winner of the guillotine tool kit. Congratulations. You know what to do. Contact email description. We'll get that shipped out to you pronto. Pronto. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and give away a skillet kit set.
Okay.
Okay, just bring the skillet kit over there. We're gonna give away a 12-incher.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
We've got a camera number 2.
Yep.
So our skillet sets, they make what you see here. It comes with a 12.5-inch diameter skillet body, so a flat plate that's 12 inches around in diameter, 12.5 inches. And it will also come with a handle that already has the eye pre-punched in it. And all you have to do is do a little bit of light forging and shaping to your liking. And it also comes with the 2 rivets that go in it. So pretty simple. I just made a video If you haven't seen the video on it, I really hope that you'll go watch it after this. I have a full video on actually teaching Thomas how to make one of these skillets from our skillet sets that we sell over at blacksmithingblanks.com. So I'm going to give away one skillet kit. Sound good?
Sounds
12-inch
good.
skillet kit. Include skillet somewhere in your thing. We ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are people commenting already?
They are.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Who do we have, Jess?
We landed on Kevin Zufelt, who says, I like food, so I need to make a skillet.
Kevin
Zufelt.
Zufin?
Zufelt.
Zufelt. Kevin Zufelt, congratulations. You are the winner of a skillet kit from us. Get with us, contact email in the description. Description.
Edwin.
All right, let's pause it there and get back to work, huh?
Okay. Edwin asked if you ever worry about how many times you heat up a piece of metal.
Yes. So generally, it is not good. Generally, it's not good to take a bazillion heats on a piece of material because the grain grows. Every time you heat it, the grain grows in steel. With that being said, it's pretty darn forgiving when it comes to heating stuff, as long as you're not at super high heat, super high temperatures, like forge welding temperatures. So I am a fan of saying that there's no benefit in a one heat forging. What needs to get done just needs to get done. You want to get it done as efficiently as possible. There's no benefit to you knocking something out in one heat. You couldn't, well, no, I'll just say it. There's no one on the face of this earth that would be able to make this whole thing in one heat. So there's zero value in a one heat forging. Really isn't. When it comes to hand forged ironwork. Now there's things where big drop hammers can boom, knock out a part and someone has to grind all the flash and things like that. That's different. When you're making art, there's no value in a one heat forging. So take as many heats that are as necessary, but do remember that every heat you take, you are increasing the grain structure. You're making that grain structure larger and therefore more brittle or weak. So just something to keep in mind. Mild steel is super forgiving on that, so you've got a lot of range before you're going to have problems with mild steel. I'm getting there. Slow but sure. All right, just got to thin that out in that direction, and that'll be ready to curl.
Chris Kelly says, will you be making more Thomas training videos? Love the skillet show.
Yeah, as we go along, I plan on training Thomas more and more. And, you know, when we find something good to do, that's a good representation of doing education, yeah, most definitely will. So, sometimes it's nice to see somebody else who, you know, I've been doing this a lot of years. Well, at least it feels like a lot of years to me. I know it's not as much as some out there in the craft. But sometimes it's hard to translate how difficult something really is unless you see it through the eyes of another beginner to intermediate level smith. So So teaching it that way can be very handy and helpful. At least a lot of people have said that it would be helpful. And they really enjoyed that piece of content. So yeah, most definitely.
Harold Hodgkinson says, on a 12-inch skillet, how much do you need for the rim?
That's completely your choice. On my 12-inch skillets, I choose to have 2 inches of material for the rim. Now it's a personal choice for height. I find that creates the most balanced skillet, if you will. Trying to get this thing to stay up. So I find that a nice 12-inch skillet is, a 12-inch skillet, you want about a 2-inch rim. A 10-inch skillet, same thing, a 2-inch rim. And then an 8-inch skillet, you want 1.5 inches rim. And that seems to work out about perfect. When you think skillet, that's kind of what you get. If you go taller than that, you get more of a saucepan, which is still good. So you can still use the same size skillet. You end up with a little less in the bottom, flat area in the bottom, but that's fine because if you're making a saucepan, you're more worried about sauces than you are worrying about flat iron steaks or something like that in the pan. So you just add more to the rim if you want to have a taller pan side or make it into a saucepan. You add less rim, the more you want it to be like just a flat frying skillet. If you add not enough rim, what happens is when you make it, it ends up just becoming like a plate, like a dinner plate instead. Just something to keep in mind. Using my particular method anyhow of making them, that's what ends up happening. All right. Thin this down a little bit. Looking good. Clean that up. Now we're ready to roll her.
Angie and Rick, Family Adventures, ask if you've seen more females getting into forging as of late.
Have I seen more females?
Yep.
I wouldn't say that I have particularly noticed like a large trend of females getting into forging as of late. I would say that there is definitely a larger pool of females getting into the craft, which I think is great. That's amazing. And there's more groups that are kind of devoted to women smiths, and and so that's great again too as well. I wouldn't say that there's particularly more or less though. I just think that there's more access maybe than what there's ever been. So yeah, and that goes for everybody, male or female alike. There's just more access to the world of blacksmithing and crafting than what there has been in the past. So, I would say that would hold true, and that's where you see maybe an uptick there.
Jesse Dunn says, how did you get me into forging?
Oh, Jessica likes to make things. She likes to get crafty. So
it was kind of a natural progression to
yep,
tinker
natural
around.
progression. And why not? Right? I have all the tools, so.
Plenty of tools.
Yeah. This started off as my passion and my hobby, but Jessica has always been 1,000% supportive of me. And in fact, without her, I wouldn't be here today doing what I do. So all hats off and props to Jessica. Give her a round of applause. So like I said, I would not be the man that I am today without her. I've always been a person to want to support her and anything that she's up to and want to do. So if she says she wants to blacksmith, we'll find a way. She wanted to be an enamel, she wanted to do enameling, we made it happen, so.
Yep.
Basically anything. She wanted to pick up guitar once, so I went out and bought her a guitar.
I'm a bit of a hobby hopper.
Yeah, she's a hobby hopper, so.
Yeah.
It's up there, beautiful.
Let's see, Acting Out says if you only had 2 forging tongs to start with, what would they be?
2 forging tongs to start with. I would start with a pair of just flat bar stock tongs, something that you can adjust to fit the work that you're working on really easily. And then I would get a pair of 1/2-inch bolt jaw tongs. That would be my suggestion for your first 2 starting pairs of tongs. The reason for a flat jaw pair of tongs is you can adjust them to hold so many different things. So you can later on decide that you want to turn them into bolt jaws, or you can later on decide you just want them as rivet tongs, or you can forge the nibs out into scrolling tongs. There's a lot of different directions you can start with a flat jaw tong blade. So that's what I would suggest for that. When it comes to the 1/2-inch bolt jaw tong, the 1/2-inch bolt jaw tong is super handy for holding a range of materials. That's where you start getting into guys who like to work on railroad spikes, and different odd shapes work really well in a 1/2-inch square bolt jaw tong. So you can hold a lot of different shapes. Even if it's kind of uncomfortable to squeeze the reins, you can adjust it in or out to hold a bunch of different shapes. So that's why I suggest those. All right, back to the anvil cam.
All right.
Good. Please and thank you. And we'll continue to roll this. Roll this scroll right up. When you're doing scrolling work, you have to remember this is all a game of like death by 1,000 cuts here. You're not trying to go full hams on anything. You're just wanting to lightly work the piece, hitting it all over all of its surfaces to create that curvature. Takes a lot of practice, but it's worth the result. So we'll just keep going with that now.
Camden Hughes says, what do you do when you want to take tension out of a bent piece of steel?
What do I do when I want to take tension out of a bent piece of steel? Well, that's going to vary because I don't know what bent piece of steel you got and how badly it's bent. We're about to lose the camera 1 here. Battery's low.
Okay.
So I'll need to go put a battery in it once it dies officially. So if you say if you have a piece of steel that you just bent and you're worried that you may have overworked it or something like that, or had excessive grain growth, you'll do the same methods of heat treating. You're going to heat it up and let it cool real slowly in the air. Let it normalize 2 or 3 good times, and then you should be good to go. That'll put the grain structure back right. So you heat it up to critical and you let it cool. Heat it up critical, let it cool, heat it up critical, let it cool. Slightly under critical each time. And you let that cool back to room temperature. And that's how you normalize the material and or get that grain structure to break back down and become more uniform, if you will. So it's important to do that after forge welds as well. So if you're doing a bunch of forge welding and the piece needs to be structurally strong, you need to make sure that you do some normalization cycles on it after you get done welding. Otherwise, you'll have increased grain growth right next side where you have forge welded, and it'll break at that juncture. All right, back to camera number 2, Jess.
All right.
Please and thank you. Now comes the trick of trying to get things to shape up without getting other things to move. We don't want the other scrolls to move around as we tighten up this scroll.
definitely does look like quite the challenge to get all of the pieces in the right place and then not bump them later as you progress.
Yeah, they are. It is quite tricky. But it's not too bad. I'm working it cold right now because that's the easiest way for me to push things around without going too far and bending or squatting down other scrolls that I don't want to move around. Also, I should mention, I'm not trying to go for a perfect exact match as the scroll on the other side. That's not important in French Baroque ironwork. What I'm going for is that there is a scroll on the other side. So it's just to balance the piece. That's why we're doing scrolls on both sides of this piece. It's to balance it out, because this is going to be a central focus point on a door, or at least I think it will be. Maybe they just like the stained glass in the door, who knows. But we're going to heat this back up, and we're just trying to go for close. It doesn't have to match the exact curl or spiral or anything on this end. It's just to balance out the piece.
Joe McGilligravy asks, how do you deal with grain when drawing out or tapering?
How do I
deal with grain?
Grain growth? Mm-hmm. So when you're drawing out material, okay, when you're drawing out material, technically you're wanting that grain growth, because that grain growth is what's allowing the material to be drawn out in the first place, because those grains are slipping along each other. So they're actually slipping along and they're elongating as you're forging out this piece. That's why you can compress it and get that grain structure to move without it just not moving or breaking on you when you're drawing material out. So it's okay for the grain growth to happen while you're drawing the piece out. Again, if it's something critical or structural steel, mild steel, you have a lot of latitude on that. It's not as critical as something like high carbon material, where you might be making a knife blade, pair of scissors, shears, something like that, where you need to have refined grain all the way to the tip in order to get that. That's why we heat treat things like blades and tools and such knots that have an edge on them, or a fine edge, is we have to get that grain growth to normalize, or to, get smaller, more compact, if you will. And it will do that. So it will grow in grain, but you can heat treat it just by normalizing it several times and taking all of that stress that's been hammered into it out. When it comes to, as you can see, I've heated this thing multiple times. It's been hot, it's been cooler, it's been a whole host of things, and it won't matter. If I have super big grain growth in that, who cares? It's a scroll. It doesn't hold anything. It's not, it's never going to be torqued on or twisted or counted on to save someone's life, right? That's hanging on the side of a cliff face. So you kind of have to assess what you're making and whether that truly matters or not, the grain growth. If it's some big, heavy, chunky piece of iron that's going to be some sculptural piece, who cares if it has large grain growth? But if you're going to forge out a really fine chef's knife, you're going to care that it has large grain growth. So let's go to camera number 2, Jess.
All right.
But great question. Great question. All right. Now we're just going to tuck this right on down and finish this scroll off. Nice. Nice. Kind of nice. Need to tuck it a bit more because I don't like where it's at.
Tommy Odinson says, are the cut terminations not supposed to be sharp between the fingers? And if so, how do you round it off?
Okay, so great question. On this particular ironwork, it is not uncommon to see the it is not uncommon to take and see the residuals of a cut in the piece. It all depends on what the ironwork required back in the day. But if you want to take and clean any sharp rags that you see, you get in there with files afterwards or a bit of emery. I'm probably going to come in with it with a bit of emery cloth and clean that out. Back in the day, they would have used files, like a set of needle files, and get in there and just clean the sharp rag off if they felt that it was excessive and needed it. But in old iron, it's not too uncommon to see in older pieces a remnant of where they split the material and having a little rag in there. Again, they were making a shape much like today. They were trying to like, oh look, that's pretty, and it's on a door. If you get your face right up to it, you get your face right up on it and close enough to sniff it, you're going to see all the imperfections on it. So it's based upon whether the piece needed it or not. So it's not bad that that rag is still in there, but if it is a little too much and you just couldn't get it, use a little needle file to get in there and clean it off. The reason why I chose to split this out versus just saw cut it is saw cutting is a much later technique for this. They would have split this in iron, this would have been wrought iron, and they would have split this with chisels. Very fast and efficient with a striker. So it's a very efficient way of cutting all of these pieces out. So a more modern technique would be saw cut it, but then you would still have, I'd still want to hammer out all those little sawing lines and things like that. So I wanted this to be more traditional and to match more period correct of what I'm going for, which is about the 15th century. So that's why I chisel cut it, and that's why I'm making it look like it's from that era. People have really given some good questions tonight, Jess.
Yeah, they are.
I really love good, well thought out questions. Yeah, that's working out great. Cool.
Steve Krenek says, for the hammer you made, do you ever have to redress it?
I've only had to redress it. The main battery ran out. I'm going to have to go change it real quick. I'll be right back, and I'll answer that question.
All right, this is the part where I get to take over the show. Let's see, somebody asked if I had a husband correcting item. No, I do not. That would be pretty funny though, like stamp into it.
Huh?
Harold Hotchkiss, I agree. Imperfections do give a piece its character. Frank Strock, yes it is. It is going to be one heck of a door knocker. The piece, the back plate even on its own would make a really nice standalone piece. Gregory Littleton, rest in peace, Camera One. It shall soon be revived. Yes, Chris Kelly, I do have my poem picked out, but we normally save that for the very end. Brian Tessier, what recommended resources if you want to do scroll work? If you go and watch some of our videos on blacksmithing books, Roy has, I think, 2 or 3 in that video that would be good recommendations on scroll work. Robert Shell, when do we get another day in the life of Jess? That is a good question. I'm not sure that a whole lot of that I do is the most interesting. I'm not out in the shop a whole lot, so we'll have to see. Right now my time is consisting of doing more schooling with the kids now that we're officially starting up for the year, and also some product photography that I do on the side as well. Glenn Martin, yes, it is for a door knocker. It is the escutcheon plate. Gregory We have a lot of Roy rants. What is the thing that I can rant about? I don't rant very much, actually. In fact, Roy rarely sees me mad, so I think we called it Jessica Johns before when we had when I made an attempt during one of my enameling live streams. Benjamin McCreevy says, you all are a good example of where me and my girlfriend are trying to get. That's awesome. Yeah, if you can have teamwork, you know, just tackling different parts of a business, that's really, really helpful. It's definitely been a journey to where we're at. With the blacksmithing, you know, he just started off as a hobby. And then from there, we're like, let's try selling a couple of things at a craft show. And so we went to doing that. And then we heard people were telling us, like, hey, you really need to sell your stuff on Etsy. And so I started learning how to put together an Etsy store, which if you're wanting to try that, we have some videos on the channel about it. And so we did Etsy, and we started getting sales, and it just kind of continued from there. And later on, we added YouTube as well. We were recommended. Who's that?
Are we back?
Rotate. They want to see who's there. My mom's here. She's visiting.
All the way from...
Hi, I'm Joy from Colorado Springs.
Oh, here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joy from Colorado Springs.
Let's see. Oh, Aaron, I'm glad you like the enameling videos. Yeah, I want to do some more, but I haven't. It's probably been about a month since I've done much. Joshua, yes, Roy is an excellent cook. He cooks on the Blackstone quite a bit. He makes some Philly cheesesteak, and he made some bacon wrapped burgers last night, and grilled chicken, and lots of grilling.
This main cam, you're
Yep.
running out of things to say, aren't you?
Yes. Everybody say
All right,
hi,
is the
Mom.
main cam back up and running?
Yep, it's up.
Okay, awesome. Well, everybody, and my favorite mother-in-law. To the live stream, and she is the woman behind the woman that is the reason for me. So you know, so everybody give her a round of applause. It just keeps getting a layer deep, doesn't it? Just one more layer deep. So all we need is Granny here, and then.
Yeah.
Then it would be 3 layers deep, wouldn't it? Great.
Roger Caldwell, have a good evening.
Been in the live streams from time to time and say hey, don't you? Yep,
Yep.
occasionally. So yeah, so everybody say hello.
See, Jesse Yancey says, is there a way to know how large of an anvil face they need?
A way to know how large of an anvil face? There's not really a preferred size. So it's just whatever you're comfortable working on. Some people really like large anvil faces or large anvils like I do. I personally love large anvils with broad faces, but that can create reach issues. So I've got a German pattern double horn anvil for those reach issues. So I've got a tapered square horn that works out for that. Realistically, you just need an anvil surface or face that is the width of the hammer that you're using as a bare bones minimum. You don't want it to be smaller than the hammer that you're hammering it on. If anything, you want it to be slightly larger, just a tiny bit larger. So on the particular hammer that I'm using, I've got about 1.25 inches across the diagonal on it, and I mostly hammer diagonally when I'm working the piece. And so I would need a minimum anvil face of probably 1 3/8 inches or 1.5 inches, if you will, in width. Obviously that's pretty narrow. I find a larger anvil face is like a table. You can set additional tools off the side, and you can have your area more set up and prepped. So that's my suggestion, is kind of try out several anvils and decide what width of face works best for you. Generally, most general purpose forging anvils are about 4. You get up into 6 and 8 inches across from front to back of the anvil. And you got to really like big anvils and let that suit your work that way. Great question. Let's go to the anvil cam real quick.
All right, Sully, welcome to the Bellows Boy.
Woohoo! Thank you, thank you. All right, I'll bend these back out. Actually, that finger can go back that way. And I'll bend this out so I can get at it.
He is working on the back plate for the door knocker.
Go, get that hot again.
We have a question from Gregory from my mom. Wants to know if Roy is your favorite son-in-law since you're the favorite mother-in-law.
Yes, I'm the one that started telling Roy he's my favorite son-in-law. I didn't have any other son-in-laws.
Jason Holloway wants to know, what is your dream anvil? Is it an old Hay Budden or a Peter Wright?
What is my dream anvil? I'm working on it. I'm living the dream right now. So,
Steve Ziga says, what's the best basic hammer shape for newbies? French, Swiss, Jaffe, etc. And where could we look to get one?
I would say cross peen. A nice cross peen hammer. You can pick up most cross peen hammers with a face dressed correctly at any of your big box stores, hardware stores. I forged for 4 years off of a 3-pound Harbor Freight cross peen hammer before I made my own. So, well, a bit more than that. About 5-6 years with that hammer. Go to anvil cam, please.
Okay. This is just my copy of some comments I want to read out loud. So the feed continues with the comments.
So, talking about the best shaped hammer for a beginner. There are a lot of people that would disagree with me on a cross peen as being the best hammer as a beginner. When you've asked me, I'm just giving you my preference. So we go to the main cam, hun.
Okay.
We're there, hopefully we are.
Yep.
I'm giving you my preferences. My preferences have been developed out of just what I started learning with to the way that I do my work and what type of work I pursue now. I find that a cross peen is the most handy in my particular shop. So therefore, if you ask me what I would recommend, I'm going to recommend something that I would use personally in my own shop. That being said, there are zillions of different hammer styles, shapes, designs, weights, balances. There's a bunch out there. So you need to try each one thoroughly before you decide that this hammer is the best in it for you. And remember, for you. Just because you see somebody else not using a cross peen doesn't mean that they're doing something incorrectly or wrong. They just gravitate to a different hammer and it feels good in their hands while they're working. And that is what is most important. Find you a hammer that is a very well balanced, that you can swing all day if you wanted to, and will do the work that is required. So not always. I've got a whole bunch of hammers over there on the rack just out of frame, and each one has a different purpose in my shop. So I don't subscribe personally to the thought process that there is there's a one and done tool. There's a perfect tool. There's not. It's just a tool. So
Yeah,
power hammer, pick whatever power hammer you like. Press, pick whatever press you may like.
It depends which camera.
Preferences are one thing. Getting the work done is something completely different. There's tools that are more efficient for certain processes and other tools that are not as efficient for certain processes. So you can't just ask, what's the perfect hammer? The one that fits you best. It's a very ambiguous question for that. And you find yourself looking that way when you're just getting started out. You know, it's like, hey, I only got a little bit of money to spend on this whole deal. So, you know, what's the best bang for my buck? In blacksmithing, it's not really that. There's the best tool to suit the job or the work at hand. Just like if you were a carpenter, you wouldn't use a slam stapler to, you know, you wouldn't use a slam stapler to take and install, you know, concrete nails. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't use a nail gun, right, as a hammer. A nail gun's a nail gun, right? A hammer is a hammer. A pry bar is a pry bar. Same thing in blacksmithing. It's the same way. Certain shapes help in certain situations, and they are not helpful in others. All right, roll this up.
Robert Lanis says Olga is his dream anvil too.
There's a many guys that have Olga as their dream anvil. Hence why I don't have any blacksmith conferences here at my place. There'd be too many of you blokes out there go to sleep at night and come to find Olga disappears on me. Uh-huh.
Be awful hard to move.
Loaded up in somebody's truck. I got a little rag on there from the end, from the cut, that I'm probably going to have to hot rasp off. There you go. I got rid of it. Get that hot again and make her scroll. All right.
Harold, actually my mom has forged before, I believe nail hooks. You made a couple of nail hooks a couple years back. Edwin asked basically what you thought of us being entrepreneurs. Do you want to share a few thoughts? Wait, that's like kind of putting you on the spot. What do you think about us running our own business? Come back to it? Okay. Right here. Camden Hughes asked if inflation has affected our business.
Well, it's just made everything more expensive. That's about it. My prices for my regular artwork is already set fairly high. So the material is not, it's not the largest portion of the cost. My experience and time at the anvil and what I'm making as a whole is the largest portion of the cost. It's the man hours that go into it versus the material itself that inflation would affect is negligible of that cost. Now, that being said, it has affected the CNC plasma cutting business quite a bit because the cost is so high. My margins are very tight now, just because steel's up 400%. So when it's up 4 times what you paid for it previously, and you've already made prices on 4 times ago, 4 times less, it really sucks up all your profit margin right up out of it. So I still make a profit in the CNC side of things, but it's a lot smaller chunk of the pie than what it would have been when the steel prices had dropped. So inflation does affect things. Inflation does affect things quite a bit. But again, with the CNC business, most of the cost to the customer and to me is the material. So therefore, inflation affects it.
Chris Kelly, we buy our steel from multiple places. GNR Steel's one of them. Sometimes we still travel back to Dayton to the scrapyard down there. We have bought from Alro, but we've kind of gone away from them because their prices have stayed high.
Yeah, shout out to First Street Recycling, Dayton, Ohio. Couldn't ask for better folks.
Gregory Littleton says, since y'all do so much laser cutting, have you thought about investing in a small bed cutter for yourselves?
Do so much what?
Since we do so much laser cutting,
Plasma
have we
cutting.
thought about investing in a small bed cutter for ourselves?
Bed cutter?
Bed cutter. I'm not sure.
Well, we do have a small CNC bed. That's what's in our shop. So, that is completely at our disposal anytime we'd like.
Bridget Ironworks asked if Mom enjoyed the carved little Santa.
Yes, thank you for sending that to Jessica. They shared it with me. He's very cute and adds character at Christmas. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was, I think, 2 Christmas giveaways ago. Mike sent some carved items, Santas and snowmen and stuff, and we kept some and gave some away. Balic, it's ice water in the thermos. Got to keep Roy hydrated. Right down there.
Adjust that a little bit.
Tobacco Maker asked if you got any photos of the aurora in the last couple of days.
Sadly not. It's either been cloud covered, moon, and when the time kind of caught around to where it was actually the darkest portion of the sky, it was already over when it got here. So the aurora was going on like midday, which doesn't really help you in seeing the aurora borealis. So kind of like right in between. I got like alerts on my phone through an app that I was using, It's like, oh, it's going on, and it's this, and it's this grand, and it's bright daylight out, so it kind of ruined it. But that's kind of how it is with astrophotography. We went on a hike to a lake, Reed Lake foot travel area, and I wanted to go out there and get Milky Way photography because the lake is surrounded by trees, and so it gets really still, the air does, and so it gets really super glass smooth. There's no boaters or anything like that. You have to hike to the lake. So it gets really super glass smooth, and I was hoping to get some Milky Way astro time lapses of the Milky Way going over and catching that reflection in the lake. Show up there, and of course there's a camper right in the spot I was hoping to use to get the Milky facing the south, which the Milky Way is in, right where I was wanting to use it. So not only did I not get the Milky Way, but yeah, the shot ended up, I left the camera on accidentally on auto white balance, so it was choosing white balance, so it like was really freaking out the sensor every time it took an exposure. So yeah, so not only did the shot not turn out like I would have composition that I was after to begin with, so that's the way it works. But we did get a lesson in walking and hiking out over a mile in the pitch black at 3 a.m. Huh? It was dark.
Watching for bears.
It's dark in them woods at night, so.
Yeah.
And that's the lake foot travel area is part of the Huron National Forest, so that's about 40,000 acres. So it gets dark out there.
Robert Shell says, does this door knocker have a home already, or is it for an upcoming event?
The door knocker does not have a home already. It will be for sale on my website when I get it finished. So it was just something I felt inspired to make. So that's what I did. Need a little more tweaking on that one. That one's being fussy. So I've got a flat in here I don't like. I got to heat it up and collapse that flat that way, but at the same time keep it somewhat uncurled. Like I don't want it to fall this way anymore. So I got to compress that little U on the outside of this curve to get it a little nicer.
GWI Railroad says, Roy, the door knocker is turning out awesome.
Thank you very much. This is one of those items that will probably sit in my shop, in my store for years before it ends up selling. So, well, who knows? Who knows? A lot of items like this, you know, when you're working for yourself and in business, it's worthwhile challenging yourself and doing things that maybe don't necessarily make financial sense at the time or for that item, right? So if I put that thing up there for $500, it's not going to be worth the 100 hours that by the time this thing's done with. But at the same point, it's awful hard to sell a door knocker at $5,000, right? You got to have a very special client that wants to have something like that literally on their door, and they just fall in love with it because you're asking for a lot of money. So
I don't know yet.
If you're right in the middle, right in between those figures, you're not going to make gangbusters money making something like that. But what it leads to oftentimes is it leads very often than not to other commissioned work. So somebody says, wow, I fell in love with this door knocker. I wanted to know about hinges. I don't need a door knocker, but man, could you do something like that in hinges? And then you get work that that work that you decide to make inspired further sales, even though it may still sit on your website inspiring many of people, but never selling. But it helps sell additional work, your craftsmanship, your abilities and your skills. So there's still value in doing pieces that don't make financial sense, even if you don't get, even if you don't get the result that you may particularly be after as far as trying to sell it just straight up to somebody. There we go. Now we got some more curve into that. I'm a little happier. I'll take this up a little bit. It's nicely tucked. That's good enough for fiddling around with that thing. So I get asked, about a dozen times a day on the YouTube channel, what's a popular thing to sell? What can I make a lot of money at as a blacksmith? And the answer to that question is and will forever be whatever you are most inspired to make, whatever you're most passionate about. Because you'll never fail at something that you're passionate about. But if you just make things simply for the sake of just making a buck or a quick buck, blacksmithing is not your industry. This is a long, slow trade. It takes a long time to learn, to get proficient at, and to make a very large, substantial income from. So it takes years of dedication and practice to get to that point where you're making the kind of income that you might be making at your local Denny's. So, excuse me, sorry.
Robert Lannis says he's getting ready for an invite-only show in Northampton that will hopefully bring the money he needs for his pieces. Awesome,
awesome. Well, he said Robert Lannis, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Robert, your pieces are definitely stunning. You've put in a lot of passionate time at the anvil, and it shows. It shows. I would like to think that I had a small part in creating that beast on the other side of the lens. For all of those that don't follow Robert Lannis over on Insta, on the socials, the medias, you should. You're missing out.
At the Treadle Shed.
Yep, the Treadle Shed. He does really good work. I'm quite proud of that young man, air quotes. I believe he's slightly older than me, so just call him a young man. He don't mind. He's a long-time channel subscriber.
He says, thank you, Roy. You most definitely did.
I'm claiming you. You're mine. That's right. Yep. It was all because of the least likable blacksmith on YouTube. I'm claiming you.
Jerome, Roy's apron is made by blue.
Chip Brown.
Chip Brown.
Chip
yes.
Brown at Brown Cow Art
Brown
made
Cow,
my
right.
leather apron.
Brown Cow Art. Edwin Parsons says, how did you come up with the name of your shop years ago?
Well, it was originally Christ-Centered Forge and Anvil. And I didn't want to call it Ironworks at first because I felt like I was too small time and that would be too facetious of me to call it Christ-Centered Ironworks when, heck, I was just beginning to learn how to swing a hammer. So I just called it Christ-Centered Forge and Anvil. And I thought the little, what do you call that? The letters, the initials for that.
CCFA?
Yeah, I thought that just sounded good. It rolled off the tongue. The main reason why I named the shop what I did, the forge what I did, was to take and give credit back where credit's due. And so I believe undeniably in my life, God has had a hand in my life where I could have went the wrong way oh so many times. And it wasn't because I'm some sort of genius or I'm great looking or any other nonsense like luck or otherwise. It was pure providence that I am where I'm at today and where I was at that point in time. So I wanted whatever I did to take and point the finger back to who, you know, is the reason for it all, ultimately, which is Christ, in my opinion. So with that being said, that was also the reason why at the time I had just came back to Christ as a born-again believer, as a Christian. I got saved many, many years ago when I was wee-high to a cane pole. And then it wasn't until after I got married with Jess and, felt a real strong call of the Lord, I, got back into it. And I realized there was things in my life where I was being very arrogant and not giving glory to God. And so I wanted that as an accountability. If it ever grew into anything, if the blacksmithing ever went anywhere outside of my backyard, I wanted to have that accountability so I wouldn't get all big-headed and thinking that it was this guy that achieved all of that. So God's blessed me ever since, and so that's the story behind it. Some people, I got accused the other day from a commenter that they said, "Oh, found your content. Saul was real great and everything, all up until I saw that you're bringing your religion into it. So I'm not subscribing." And I said, "Well, thank you. I don't need a petty person to subscribe." So, that because a lot of people think that I started in some missions or I'm trying to, no, I'm not. If you're looking for Christ, you need to look up there. Don't be looking right here. I am a flawed individual and a flawed human being. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not here to convert you or save your soul. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach blacksmithing. That name, putting that name on my business is purely a selfish endeavor to keep myself straight and pointed in the right direction. So that's the reason for the name. Long-winded explanation, but it is a story.
It is. Nate B says, "Glad to hear your testimony. Thank you for sharing."
Very welcome.
Tabaka Maker says, "Turn or burn, Roy?"
Turn or burn! I have threatened in a previous live stream to go to the next blacksmith conference and just yell that at people. Just at random. All you heathens out there. Turn or burn. You know what's funny is somebody's going to clip that. Someone's going to clip that up somewhere on the internet.
Right.
And that's going to be it.
Yep.
That's all she wrote. It's the only thing they'll ever remember me for. Turn or burn. Well, Roy said on such and such day, get out your notebooks, folks. Roy says a lot of stuff. A lot of things I'll probably end up answering for. It's going to be a long line at the pearly gates behind me, so I'm going to have a whole lot.
Joshua Potter says, "Roy, it's a pleasure watching your videos. The mold that you use to make bowls and skillets, how do you come by one of those?"
How do I get what?
The swedge block, how do you get one of those?
So you can find them basically anywhere on the internet. The one that I was using to make the skillets in the video is a green Monagle. I believe they're still being produced. I forget who has the pattern for them. Just type it in, green Monagle. It's a good block, totally vouch for it. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars out of that one. Another manufacturer, a really great manufacturer of swedge blocks, in my opinion, personally, is Holland Anvil. They were our supporter last year in the year of the swedge block. So big thumbs up to Holland Anvil. They produce a really nice swedge block in all sorts of various shapes and designs, and they're local here in Michigan. So they're down in Holland, Michigan. So definitely worth checking out Greg and Hobie on that. All right, going to the anvil.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
We good to go?
Yep, we're good to go.
I heard a giggle over there.
I did. Danimal's Creation said that you will answer for the things you say about people that make knives on Forged in Fire.
Oh, that's probably the least of things I'll have to answer for.
Aldrich says, I love how we suddenly jumped back up to 100 people.
What's that?
We jumped back up to 100 people.
Yeah? You know why? People know I don't usually give away the big prize until the very end of the stream.
Yep.
Either that or people are getting off work.
Yeah, it could be that too.
It's probably nothing nefarious. All right, well, speaking of which, we should give away the other guillotine tool now and go ahead and give away the gas forge.
Okay.
I'm going to finish this one last scroll and I'm going to call that quits for the evening. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Oh, we've been doing it late enough. Excuse me. All right, we ready?
Yes. I'll need to borrow my thing in there.
All right. All right, so let's go ahead and give away. Boom.
Ooh.
Camera number 2.
All right.
Oh, we're going to go ahead and give away this A-frame guillotine tool. Again, you can find these over at our website, blacksmithingblanks.com. Be sure to check that link out in the description down below. So we're going to give away another kit. Again, it comes with a die that you cut and shape yourself, and all the pieces needed to take and create a guillotine tool, or a A-frame guillotine tool, or arch frame, as some like to call it. It comes with a 1-inch hardy shank that you can grind down or upset to fit your hardy hole, and everything like you see it here. It comes with everything you need. So I also have videos, tutorials on how to put these things together on YouTube. So if you need a little guidance along the way, we do have that available. So we're going to go ahead and give that away, okay?
Okay.
Can you go back up to main cam?
Yes.
All right, so just include guillotine somewhere in the comments. As you do. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Are they ready?
It looks like it, yeah.
Are their thumbs a-typing?
Their thumbs
Beating
are
their
typing.
screens?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are phone screens a-cracking?
Maybe.
They might. All right. Or like some unlucky Smiths that, like I used to be, where I had a crack in my screen, got glass shards in their thumbs now.
Oh, hopefully not.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. It's just, trust, you could just go buy it over at the website. It'll be okay. You don't have to bleed for a freebie. So, all right, ready? Let's go. Who do we have, my love?
Landed on Charles Tucky with guillotine tool, please.
Charles
Tucky.
Tucky? Charles Tucky? Congratulations. I'm assuming you're in Kentucky.
Maybe. Or it's just
Or
his
from
last
Charles
name.
Tucky, huh? No? Might just be a last name?
Could be.
Who knows? Congratulations, Charles. Get with us to the contact email in the description and to claim your prize. Good sir. All right. So those have been given away. So are we ready to give away the big main prize, the main goal?
We are.
The thing that everybody comes to here to win, potentially. You know, the real winners of this stream are all the ones that have soaked up any knowledge that was put out. That's the real winners. Of course, it's nice to win a forge too, but
Of course.
that's just bragging rights. That's icing on the cake. Get that right, hon? All right, we ready? We are going to be giving away the Mr. Volcano gas forge. It's one of their Hero 2s. It's a little single burner, or just Hero. I think it's just a Hero, right? Yeah. So we're giving away a single burner gas forge from Mr. Volcano. Hashtag not a sponsor. We are buying these forges and sending them to you, all free of charge. Follow the rules down in the description down below. And without further ado,
Which is open to the U.S., Canada, UK, Australia.
okay, well there you go. You heard it first from her. All right, we ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1, go. Is it excessive? I don't think so. Who do we have?
We landed on Bill Wool with Forge Me.
Bill Will. Congratulations. You are the winner of a gas forge. You know what to do, good sir. God bless you, brother. Contact, email, description. Do it. Do it now. All right. Well, there you go. No more giveaway items. They've all been given away. Until next time.
I scroll, and then where it
Until next
I
time.
read the name at the top of the list.
But what we are going to do is we're going to finish the scroll that I started working on, just so that way that's done and I'm ready to move on to the next process for my video. When I continue to film it this weekend or next week. All right, we ready? Can we go to the anvil cam?
Yes.
Thank you, love. I got a blowout. This hammer blow. I'll just repair that real quick. And just like that, I covered up a mistake I made without you all even knowing it, if I wouldn't have said anything. So I had a bad blow where I had a missed hammer blow and it popped out a bit of material. So I took the extra time to go ahead and dress that. So this way it's no longer a missed hammer blow. Questions, comments?
Dave S., out of all the projects that you work on, what is your most requested item that you forge?
Most requested. I still get a lot of requests for skillets. I get a lot of requests for bowls and baptismals. A lot of baptismals. So, when I was doing every now and then, so I always say, okay, I'm retired. I'm not doing any more copper. I'm done. And about the time I say that, somebody wants a big copper basin made and are willing to wait an extreme amount of time for me to have said basin made. And it's money and keeping the lights on, and I always end up like, okay, fine, I'll do one. But so I get a lot of requests for that still. There's nothing wrong with basin work. It's just a lot of work, a lot of polishing, and I'm already allergic to copper. So it's absolute misery is what it is. It's absolute misery. My sinuses swell up. My skin breaks out in hives. My face swells. It's misery, just pure misery for me to do them. And so I've been trying to like say, nope, I'm not doing those anymore. But somebody ultimately throws enough money my direction, and I've got wife and kids to feed. So, sign me up. Sign me up. It all depends on whether I need the money at the moment in time for bills. So yeah, I would say that's probably the most requested. What do you think? That's probably
yeah.
most requested still. About the time you say, no, I'm not doing it anymore. And the reason for that being is at the time, at my peak, my heyday, if you will, of me doing those, I was one of only 5 people in the United States that were doing copper work on that scale. So, at that size. So it makes you in kind of hot demand because A, it's expensive to get into. A sheet of copper is going to run you about $3 grand now. So A, it's expensive to get into for large work, and B, you got to have your setup right to forge big, large basins, and you got to know what you're doing. So when you combine all that, it's not just something that anybody can like, hey, I just finished up art school. I'm going to go make copper baptismals now. No, that's just not how that works. You have to learn on small stuff first and then work up to it. So I don't even have any listings for basins or anything anywhere, but people will find some Pinterest post where someone tagged me in it and then come out of the blue, out of nowhere. So, yep. But that's how it works. If it wasn't just complete, absolute misery for me, I would probably still do it just because, well, you make good money at it, and I don't know, there's a sense of pride there, right? There's a sense of, I don't know, there's kind of something magical about knowing that you're one of only a handful, literally count on one handful of people doing that type of work. And there's something to that, right? Kind of makes you feel like a proud papa of a brand new baby. Huh. Unless it's not your baby, but that's a whole nother thing. I'm sorry, that just came to mind. Proud new papa. All right. Just taking a planishing heat, planishing out any unwanted hammer marks there. I'm pretty happy with that shape. One more heat, well, several more heats to get her scrolled up. Be good to go. Well,
Chris Kelly asked if you watch other YouTube channels.
I do. I watch very few and select blacksmithing channels. My top blacksmithing channel I watch is Black Bear Forge. John Switzer over there at Black Bear Forge. To be honest, I actually watch his John Switzer's vlogs more. His other channel, his secondary channel, I watch that more than I do the main channel. But I try to, if both videos are up, I'm going to watch the John Switzer's vlogs first because I just like seeing about his, the background and life, and I don't really need to know how to make a spoon or some of that type stuff. So I just gravitate more towards seeing the behind the scenes. I enjoy seeing that about his life. So those are my two main channels I watch. Tabor Ahmed, I watch him. Glenn over at GS Tongs, I like watching his content. Shout out to him as well. Another great channel you should follow and watch. And yeah, that's about it. And then it's all like camera stuff and astrophotography things, and yeah, a whole range of those type of channels. YouTube help stuff like, why ain't I getting views? And why do I suck at blacksmithing? Or why do I suck at filming? Those type channels. That's what I watch. I gravitate towards those more than anything. You know, like you do. How to convince your audience to pay you zillions of dollars. Doll hairs.
Wayne Hines says you seem to watch a lot of Forged in Fire since you know so much about it.
I don't have to watch a lot of it to know a lot about it. Just a few episodes and you're educated on that one.
Cognito says, what camera do you use?
I use a range. I've got GoPros for really dicey stuff, dicey filming, where the cameras will get damaged. I haven't used those a whole lot. I've got a big video shoot coming up this winter that I'll be using the GoPros for. I've got Panasonic Lumix G7s. That's been my main cams. Those are micro four thirds sensors. And then the new one is a Panasonic Lumix S5, which is a full frame sensor camera that I just purchased, a month ago?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, about a month ago. So, and then I've got a little, whenever I do one of them shop things where I'm talking and you see me walking around at smooth footage, that's the DJI Osmo Pocket 2. Yep. So a whole host and a range of cameras to make the content on this channel. Go the anvil.
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
Wayne Hines asked if you've done any fishing this summer.
No, I have not. It is sad. I have not done any fishing this summer. So my summers are generally absolutely slammed with work and events and venues and like teaching and going around to different blacksmithing things. So I just don't really get the chance to go do fishing in the summer. But my new favorite hobby for fishing, and I think it's actually my preferred method of fishing now, is ice fishing. So I actually really, really enjoy ice fishing. I mean, there's a bunch of people who do it, but there's not like a whole bunch of people who are willing to sit out on a negative 30-degree day and fish through a little hole in the ice, right? So I don't know, it's kind of nice. It's peaceful. I like doing it. I like having to hike in, pulling a sled. It's a fun way of fishing, in my opinion.
He said it's so sad being us that since we are so close to the water, all that water.
Yeah, we go swimming. We do a lot of swimming. Mm-hmm. Back to the anvil. Oh man, we about got her. It's perfect use for scrolling tongs.
Robert Shell, no, we don't have any updates on the second channel yet. It's still in percolating mode.
All right, one last heat, and I can tweak that exactly where I want it to be, and we'll be okay. Be perfect. So yeah, the secondary channel, it's something I want to work on. The channel's already created and it's on YouTube. We just don't have any content there just yet. Mainly because the content I want to film will take quite a bit longer to make, because it's kind of like, again, it's going to locations and again, showing the full creative process behind making a piece. And so therefore, that'll take a lot longer to kind of monkey around and get going on, just because, well, we've got a very busy life ahead. So, but I'm looking forward to that kind of content. Like I said, I think it'll work better than being on the main channel, which is here, because people like the beginner techniques and tutorials, and they like my Roy rants and all the other type of content that this channel is known for, and even the reviews of anvils and various blacksmith tools. So we're going to continue doing that here, and then put more of the artsy fartsy stuff on the secondary channel. Because you would be amazed at how many people don't like new things. Like, oh, I'm doing something new. I think, I'm pretty inspired to make this. And they're like, get to the point. Nobody cares that you found an old shipwreck and you're forging pirate doubloons. Just make the doubloon already. Oh. That all cleaned up. So how long have we been streaming for, Jess?
In total, 2 hours, 50 minutes.
2 hours, 50 minutes?
Uh-huh.
So there you go. So 3 hours with jawling and giving away things and everything, but almost consistent work to roll out 4 scrolls on this thing. So ordinarily, in a YouTube sequence, that would have been 30 seconds to a minute. So, so as you can tell, it takes a lot of time to do that. All right, I got to heat these fingers up and bend them back forward, and we'll call that an evening. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
And I'll answer some more questions while I wait for this to slowly heat. Oh, actually, before we do that, go to camera 3, Jess.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
I actually want to mention something about my fire real quick. I am not bringing this up to the fiery face of God level hot, okay? I'm bringing this up just hot enough and then letting that heat soak into the material so I'm not burning off my auxiliary scrolls. If you get in here and this thing's so super hot that it could bring your steel up to a welding temperature, then when you stick your piece in there, your little scrolly ends will burn off almost immediately. So, so what I'm doing is I'm letting the heat from the fire, I'm letting the steel soak the heat out of the fire in order to heat up the area I need to bend without roasting off the rest of my scrolls. So that's why, I haven't been going whole hog on this thing and just like staying on that foot pedal and trying to heat it super quick, because I'm protecting the additional oxidization and the burning that could occur on the smaller scrolls by trying to heat up this area more gradually so I can bend out these thicker points. All right, that's all I wanted to say about that.
Benjamin McCreevy says, I'm building your beam hammer. What size motor horsepower was it that you suggested?
I believe that was a 2 horsepower Harbor Freight motor that was on it. You could get away with a 1 horse and maybe even a 1/2 horsepower depending on how heavy you build out the head on the beam hammer. So I would say 1 horse generally as a minimum. it's just a good size to have around the shop, a 1 horsepower electric motor.
Robert Lanis says that is going to be a beautiful contrast between the scrolls being bent the flat way and the knocker being bent the opposite direction.
Thank you. Oh, we get anvil?
Uh-huh.
See the difference, folks? See, I just barely got that hot. But the other scrolls are super hot. Exactly what I'm talking about. That's why we do what we do. All right. Clean that up. Got a little hammer bump here. I'll put away. Ooh, doggy. Give me a second. Use my other pair of tongs here. Gripper from the side. There you guys see the work there. So that's the door knocker that'll hang on to this escutcheon plate.
Very nice.
Nice.
Pulls the motif through nicely.
Ah! There you go. Again, I'll have a full video on this. Like I said, it'll be a 4-part video series on making this. I do think I'm going to try to take and do some sort of talking. I can't do a voiceover that long, but I will try to take and pop in and interject at certain points, I think, as I watch it back to try to illustrate some of what I've talked about tonight in this stream, and also to go over what I did for this as well. So I think it'd be riveting content. It will knock your socks off. No? No? Too much?
You're so punny.
Do I need to dial it back? I need to take it back like 4%?
I know, you're too punny.
Oh, I'm too punny? Thank you, honey. Oh! All right, set that off to cool.
Punny. Like a pun.
And there it is. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, what's wrong with you? Subscribe already. This is worthwhile content.
That's
You can
right.
say that you're subscribed to the least likable blacksmith on YouTube. Right? Right?
Slapping Fishforge says you need to temper it back there, Roy.
I need to temper it back there. I need to draw that back to about a blue in color. I need to blue back that right there. Oh. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I had fun. I always have fun when I do the type of work that I'm inspired to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I hope you'll watch the video when it comes out. Be sure to check out the Forging a Frying Skillet video. You know, that's already out on the channel, so be sure to check that out. That was a lot of fun to make with Thomas Goody Moot. And yeah, we do need to address a few things real quick and announce them in this stream about upcoming events. So, upcoming events currently, I will be at FABA this fall. I will also be at, I believe it's UMBA, which is Upper Midwest Blacksmith Association, as well. Like a week later, like a week and a half later, I'll be at UMBA. So if you want to come see me at those, the UMBA event will be in Wisconsin, and the FABA event is obviously in Florida. So if you're in the Florida area or right around Gainesville, I believe it is, Florida, if you're right around there, you should come to the event, come visit, come say hi. I'll be teaching doing a ornate wall hook, so I hope to see you there. That'll be really great. So now for a bit of sad news. So we just recently got over a lot of sickness in our household. I'm still actually dealing with a little bit with some jaw pain and things that some dentists are working on, and I've got to go see a specialist about. So with that being said, that's really held us back from like everything, like everything to be ready for. We have a Jessica's brother's wedding, actually. Her brother's getting married, and so we'll be out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And with everything trying to being on delay with being sick and those sort of things, we are not going to be able to make it to Quad State this year, which is sad. I know. I wanted to take and go, but we've been down with sickness for over a week, I think it is. Yeah, so over a week, and that plus my jaw pain and things still working on that, it's just set us back too far to make Quad State, which is an elective activity, a possibility this year. So I'm sad to do that to everybody. I hope to see you at the next Quad State when they have them, good Lord willing and health willing. So I hope that doesn't make too many sad faces. Who am I kidding? They're like, yes, he won't be there.
Robert Lannis is really disappointed. Tobacco Maker says, oh no Quad State. But you're in California, Daniel. I didn't think you were coming.
Yeah. So Quad State, that's an event that's hosted by SOFA, Southern Ohio Forge and Anvil. Has nothing to do with me. The event's still going on. If you are planning on going to the event, even to come see me, you should still go to the event. It's an amazing event. Lots of cool blacksmiths to hang out with. A really fun time. I thoroughly enjoy it. Our family's been going to it for, well, ever since I've been a blacksmith, basically. I missed out on like the first 4 years, I think, 3 or 4 years of Quad States. Because I'm like, well, I don't know if I really want to go, or I don't know if it's worth my time. I went to one Quad State. I've been going back almost every single year, except for the pandemic. Basically went back to Quad State every single year after that. So definitely worth going to. And again, sorry for anybody who was hoping to catch up and visit with me, but there's just no possible way I can make it a possibility with everything else sitting on my plate. So we had to drop something. FABA wasn't an option. UMBA's not an option. I'm getting paid to go to those events, and I've got contracts agreeing to go to those events. Obviously, we're going to go see your brother get married, because that's not an option, right?
Yes.
Yeah, see? Right? Happy wife, happy mother-in-law, happy life, right? Yeah, see them both agreeing? They're both shaking their head like, oh yes, that's happening. So, yeah, so all 3 of those events are not optional. Quad State just is, unfortunately. So it drew the short straw.
Robert Lannis says, now the people's choice is winnable.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Well, if this is still around and someone hasn't come in and bought it, some wealthy benefactor that's watching my channel and has subscribed and just loves buying good old-fashioned ironwork, yeah. If that sort of stuff, not just the back plate, but the whole shebang, if that's still around come next Quad State, you better believe it, it's going in the gallery. So I think it might be the thing to beat. I doubt it, but it just might. I'll probably get beat out by a porter john or something. Somebody will hand forge a toilet spoon, and that'll win. That'll win the whole event.
The Bach Maker says, Yamez, go get your jellyfish in again.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, Robert Lana should enter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert, you should enter in my stead. There you go. And you can put on there on the tag, like when you call it, because Roy chumped out. That's what you can do on your little tag. Well, like, what do you call this piece? Because Roy chumped out. That's why. Oh, good times. Well, again, anybody who's going to Quad, I hope you guys have a great time. We're just, what, a month away now? Less than a month? Ish? About a month away?
Yeah, about approximately, yeah.
From that, so, yeah. So I'll continue to work on videos. I'll continue to put stuff out like that as I can. And I'm excited for the blacksmithing conferences that I'll be demonstrating at this year. So, I'm looking forward to that. So, without further ado, we should shut up.
Okay.
Yeah? We should go. What do you think?
Yeah, we got a few comments to address.
Oh, we have a few
Before we go.
comments to address?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Bill Will, yes, we do cut custom plasma stuff. So if you wanted to get with us about the design, we can figure out what the cost would be. That'd be fine. Graham Pepper says, hello, Roy and Jessica. Sorry I have been away for so long. I've been here in spirit, but life has turned upside down. So Graham's here to say hello.
Yeah. Well, good to have you here, Graham. It's been a long time. Long time no see your name come across. So, thank you for being here, and I hope your life gets better for you. Not so topsy-turvy. Boy, it don't take much, does it, to throw you off track. So, we know that for sure, don't we, hon?
That's right. Robert Shelf, in a member chat, says, thanks CCI and chat for a great stream. God bless.
Very welcome. Thank you for being here.
And also, there was a comment earlier from Edwin Parsons, and you still want to answer that? If you want, it depends. That's good. And he asked, Jess, has your mom ever thought that Christ-centered Ironworks would not work out for you, or has she stood behind you all?
Ooh,
so I'm going to let her.
Spicy. They're asking them
insights.
spicy questions.
Hi everyone. Hope you can see me through the light there. Yes, I've stood behind their business. Roy wanted a job where he could express his creativity, and Jessica's been creative. I remember as her growing up, she's always enjoyed creativity as well. And together they make a great couple and great entrepreneurs, and it's been an honor watching them grow their business and just grow together. Thank you for asking. And thank you all for watching their YouTube channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. And yes, of course, we do have, we won't leave without the poem. So yeah, Tobacco Maker's reminding us.
So I didn't hear any of that. I'll have to watch it on the replay. I hope it was good. We'll have to see.
It was good.
I got the fan blowing in my ears over here. So, but anyways, yeah, man, the community, they leave no stone unturned, huh?
They don't.
They're like, we're here to ask the hard questions. Let's griddle the guest. They're like, what's your favorite color?
You have any other closing statements, honey?
No, I don't.
No?
I updated everybody, right? Yep, on our whereabouts and the things to expect. Looking forward.
That's correct.
Yeah, completed this piece up to this point. Again, there'll be a video on that, a 4-part series, so I'm looking forward to getting that finished up. Yeah, that's it. I think I've said everything I need to say in 3 hours plus.
Yeah, I think so. 3 hours and 7 minutes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jessica, she's going to lead you out in a poem, right?
Yep.
As we are, well, that's starting to become tradition now. It's going to be harder and harder for you to find blacksmithing poems or related.
It is, yeah, we're having to broaden our horizons.
You have to broaden the horizon. So, all right. So, that's it for me, folks. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching this stream, and just greatly appreciate everybody who makes this channel awesome. God bless each and every last one of you out there in your forges, and I hope you guys have a great, great rest of your weekend. And with that, go ahead and lead us out there, hon.
All right. This poem is called It Couldn't Be Done, and it's written by Edgar A. Guest. Somebody said it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face. If he worried, he hid it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one has ever done it." But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we knew, he'd begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with a bit of a grin, just take off your coat and go to it. Just start in to sing as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it. Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.